Good morning, everybody. This is Richard back at you. We got little Annie hanging out. Check her out. She's very excited to be in the house this morning, ain't you? Just a beautiful little girl. We got Miss Teresa on the camera as always, doing a wonderful job. We've got a 10 of 95 Ford in the house with an AOD E/4R70W. Nasty. Should have pressure washed this one too, but it's too cold outside. I'm not going to get out there in the weather. Actually, I need to go get another socket, I think. Let me grab one real quick. It's not my 10 though. It's my 15. Got to get it real quick. Sorry about that. There we go. But nice today. 100-mile-an-hour wind yesterday. Actually going to calm down today and we can do some water in the yard.
I don't think so. I think the wind's supposed to be just as breezy.
Don't think so, huh?
No.
Well, guys, today's mine and Teresa's anniversary. Been together for how many moons?
36 moons
36 moons.
and 32 official moons. Or, with the paper.
Yeah, been a long time, definitely. Been very enjoyable. Just love you to death, Teresa.
Very enjoyable. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah.
It's been a ride.
Been an adventure, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. More to come.
But we got, like I said, a 10 of 95 F-150 truck in the house. Tranny's been leaking everywhere. Tail housing loose. I mean, just everything's leaking. The tranny's been rebuilt before, it looks like. It's got a Ford reman torque converter in it. Quality renewal. So it says Ford right there, so that tells me there that it's Ford's converter. I tell you, I had a hard time getting these nuts off these studs here for some reason.
Unless they put the same converter back in there.
Ah, they could have. But like I said, this thing was leaking out the front too. You know, kind of hard to tell if the hub's on perfectly straight or anything like that.
Sure.
But I like to buy just a drain plug.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see that very often anymore.
Mm-mm. That's why this torque converter could have been reused, because they drained it and flushed it.
Says
But
renew, it's hard to say. But see how clean it is up in here? I mean, that fluid just coming down just washes all that off and makes it really nice. You'd think it'd be a little bit puddled up in here, but it's just running straight down like that. Looks like it has the updated seal, so hard to believe it's leaking out of the front, but it's leaking a little bit of everywhere.
oh yeah, you can see it puddled right there.
Gonna get our lever for our shifter cable. Comes over here. Got a bracket that hooks here on the front, comes in this way and pulls it forward like this instead of pulling it back like all the GMs. Ford comes from the front. Get my little basket. This thing is just so nasty. Then we have our neutral safety switch here.
Did you pull the pan on this or no?
Yeah, I actually did. The original pan is over there. Anytime we pull them out, I take the dimpled pan off like this one here. That way it sets, and put a flat pan on, but you have to pull the filter to put a flat pan on there. That way it'll set on my jack flat. But now the pan actually looks really good. I'm impressed with the pan. But the pan looks like it's been off. See, so it's really hard to say. Maybe like they tried to service it to fix a leak or something like that before he got it. You can look here. See how clean it is right here on the bottom of the shifter shaft seal? It looks like it's been washing, so you know the shifter shaft seal has been leaking. We have our output speed sensor here. Got a little bit of metal here. Dual O-rings, I like that. No fluid in the connector, dry, so that's good. The later versions have an input speed here, so you always want to remember that. Now the tail housing was loose on this thing. If you look here, you can see all the way around it, the gray looking color. How it's been shaken. The front U-joint on the drive shaft is bad, and then the rear U-joint, it don't feel so much better, any better. So we're going to be replacing the U-joints and the mounts to the transmission and try to eliminate that vibration he said that it had at highway speed. Now he don't know a lot about the truck because, like I said, he just bought it. But he don't like the walk, so gasket was still there. You can just see how it was loose. When I checked the bolts in the vehicle, the bolts were loose. On this one here, how you can identify a 4R70 instead of an AODE or an AOD, we have a yellow seal here. You have a bigger diameter here. The yoke is bigger on the drive shaft, and the bushing's bigger in the tail housing too, and the seal is yellow.
It's actually
The AOD,
2000 to, oh no, that's like 95.
yeah, it's just really can't
great.
tell what that number is.
Yeah,
The
it
part
says
number
0
there,
to
but
95.
your overhaul kit from TransStar will have the same color yellow seal in there. My gloves are dirty. Here in a second, I'll kind of show you that. The bushing kit could come with two bushings, the bigger one and the smaller one. So, but the bushings are different. Remember that. If you notice here, since this is totally computer controlled, here it's not a cable operated, where normally you'd have a cable going up from the bottom down here up to the carburetor or the throttle body. This unit would have a governor right here. There'd be two holes intruding from this shaft. You'd have a little dimple here where a check ball would set in, and then you'd slide your governor on, put your snap ring on to hold it. Okay. Now, a lot of these did have a cover on these blocking it, and they used the same shaft when they used the AODE. They just kind of made a dummy shaft that way instead of having to redo all the shafts. They probably had a bunch on the shelves or something like that, and they just wanted to put them in AODEs. They made it work that way. No fluid in the connector creaser. Nice and dry.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That thing's probably extra heavy with all that mud, huh?
Yeah. See, I put the flat pan on it. That way I can set it on my jack.
Yeah.
Do it that way. It makes it a lot easier. I about never got this gasket off the original pan. This gasket is so old and just, I mean, there's no dimples here at all for it to seal. It's just flat as a board. Definitely not any good. Then you have your seal for your filter. Anytime you do a service, you want to always take that out, and your new filter will have one on it right here. But you do not want to leave one in there and put your new filter on there, because you could crack the neck when you bolt the pan down. So you don't want that to happen. Down here we have our pressure control solenoid here. We have our lockup solenoid here. And we have our shift solenoid right here. And we have our temperature sensor right here. Now the later versions did do a hard wire where they didn't have wiring. They had a circuit board that the circuit board plugged into the plug here, and then when you set it down on there, it plugged into all the solenoids and stuff, but it was a circuit board instead of wiring. Our detent spring goes one way. You got to remember that. So you might watch when you put it on there. And we have a bracket that lines our PPC solenoid up, pressure control solenoid. If you notice down in here, I don't know if you can see that, Teresa, but this solenoid has a groove in it right here for this one-sided slide. that slides in there and keeps that solenoid from popping out. You have to put it in that groove. It's very easy to get that not in that groove and that solenoid pop out, so you want to watch that.
Wow.
I think they could have put one more bolt in there somewhere. I gotta be missing one. There it is. These are different lengths. All the bolts that's not on this plate are the same length. Any bolt on the plate is longer. Pretty simple to remember that. If you notice here, you have a 10 millimeter here and a 10 millimeter here. If you notice, these two bolts stick out the very back. These two shanks right here is what aligns the plate and the gaskets up. Always put a lubricant on the plate, put my gaskets on, that way the gasket doesn't slide around. I actually got some grease over there that I use. It's broken there already. A little tear right there. Which I could have tore it, but they do have an upper and lower gasket. The lower gasket will not have these holes in it. The later versions did do away with this plate right here. So this one has 3, some of them only have 2. All these bolts are the same length. Even this one. You cannot get these on backwards. They will only go one way. I'm saying even if you flip that wrong, it's still going to work. These two here, they will only go one way because the bolts are off the holes. So if you put it that way, you look, they won't line up. They'll only line up one way. Now you want to make sure you do get it with this stuff down. You do not want the flat down. Same way with this one. The little one, it can go either direction. It'll bolt up either way and still work. Doesn't matter. Same. It does. You have this funny little notch right here, but it doesn't matter. It'll go in there anyway. Valve body plate. Very seldom ever do we see any damage done to these plates. They always have a neoprene check ball in here, so you'll never see them with a metal check ball to beat the plate up. Your valve body gaskets, like I was saying, are different. Now, if they do come with a different, if there's 3 gaskets in there, that one's always going to be the same. But this one here you want to look at. You want to identify, make sure they are identical. You've got check balls all over in here. I mean, you see one here, 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 and here, and there. Also, you got a puck right here. Let me dump this out. Well, actually, let me show you the filter too. You have a filter right here. Your overhaul kit will come with that filter. Just wanted to show you that before I poured it out.
Well, that's cute.
Check balls, they're all the same size. So there's no difference here unless you get into the AOD. And you can run into something there. This is that puck I was going to show you. It's got a rubber bumper on each end. It can go either direction. Doesn't matter. Okay. Of course, our Transgo shift kit's going to come with some springs, and you drill a hole and a few other things in here in the valve body. These trannies here have to be very, very clean. The only thing that goes in the parts washer here is the case, the pan, and the tail housing. Other than that, nothing ever enters the parts washer. It's always cleaned by hand. We use air and solvent, we blow, we get all the metal out of the pores of the metal, and it just cleans them 10 times better. But this unit here, like I said, they have to be spotless when you build them back. Just remember your two bolts with the shanks on them. One goes there and one goes here on the end. And your valve body plate, like I said, it has the holes for them. These bolts here are the same length bolts that hold the covers. So there's no difference in those bolts there. You notice how this plate went under the shift solenoids, but you do have a gasket. You got your temperature sensor there. So, like I say, your Transgo shift kit's going to have you do a lot of things to this, but it'll definitely make the tranny really nice when you're done. You have two O-rings on your connector. We'll replace them. That way no fluid comes up. Leaks. Definitely going for leaks. This thing had its share. Okay. We have our third gear accumulator right here. Normally this just pops out. Oh, there you go. We have a spring. Aluminum piston. Oh, come on. A lot of them will be a plastic piston and have Teflon rings. This is a aluminum piston with rubber rings, so your kit might not come with these rings. So if these rings are wore out, you can go find a plastic piston and put back in there. Don't really ever see any issues with a plastic piston, so your shift kit could come with a new spring here for your third gear shift feel. A lot of times you can, if you don't have a shift kit, you can stack some washers up in here on the stock spring and give it a little bit firmer shift by stacking some washers. If you notice, you have a dimple right here, nothing on the bottom. The dimple goes to the top, like that. Then we have our reverse servo right here that applies our reverse band. Some of these things are tough to get out. Come on. Nothing's ever easy. Come on. Get that screwdriver behind there. Oh. Did I get it? Gotcha.
Those are tricky.
Oh, they are, I'm telling you. There you go. Now this is your reverse servo here. When you put this servo in, what I do, I take a Phillips screwdriver, come in here, push on the band, make sure you can see the place on the band where the stem here is going to be touching. Make sure it's right there and visible. Make sure these are soft. These are really bad about getting brittle, and you can just break it off. Okay, you put your spring back in there, put that in, and your cover is the same way. These are really bad about getting hard. Once these get hard, your reverse oil leaks over and then get a delay in reverse, or it burns the band up because this broke off right here. So you always want to replace these two. They're always hard in almost 90% of the units that I take apart. We have our overdrive servo here. This here is a tool that I use. I take this and bolt it here and bolt it to here, and then I can push it in, and then I get my snap ring in or out. This is actually an installer tool to put your snap ring in. I can just grab it and pull it out. I didn't say it was going to be easy, but I can grab it and pull it out.
Yeah.
Come on. These snap rings right here are bad about breaking. The servo will come loose and come out. So you always want to make sure and look at this snap ring, make sure it looks in really good shape. TranStar does sell them. Same way with this overdrive servo piston. You want to make sure it's soft. They're bad about getting hard and breaking off. Next thing you know, you got a big leak around it instead of a sealing. Now this band here, when you take this out, the anchor down here for the band, you miss it every time. See that? Boom, it's gone. It's gone. Can't get this one. Here, it's there. The overdrive one, when you pull this out, there physically is no way to get that back. You have to, I actually made a tool, I gotta find, I don't know where it's at, but I come in here and I go down through here where this EPC solenoid is, and I push on the band. Which this is out, I take and push on the band and push it around. You can see the band right there. See? But you try to get it back around to where you can get a hold of it. Right there, I got a hold of it. Oops, I missed it. Push it around. Okay, there it is, right there. Now you can take something and just kind of hold in there like that. Then you can come in here and get on your band. What I do is I put this in with the pump out when I build the tranny. But if for any reason you have to take it out and you go to put it back in, you're not going to hit the band unless you use a screwdriver or something to hold the band over to hit it. So. Then we have our overdrive accumulator here. This snap ring doesn't break. I don't really ever see any issues with it. But same way here with the cover. This gets really hard right here, shrinks up. Next thing you know, you have it leaking around the cover. We have our aluminum accumulator right there, but I wanted to kind of show you some different versions of this stuff. This here's a bonded accumulator. This is the early design that has little tiny O-rings on it that is just junky. You can just see it right there. Night and day difference. This one will interchange though. So you can get rid of this one. Little tiny O-rings. They always tear, they shrink. Next thing you know, you got accumulator issues. And then also, when these shrink, this piston starts rubbing in here. You can kind of see it a little bit right there. I don't feel no markings or anything, but you can see a shadow a little bit. So same way with this one down here. You can upgrade it to the bonded one and get rid of the little cheap O-rings. It'll retrofit right in there. Cover changes. Now your Transgo shift kit over there is going to come with different springs for in here. So just read all your instructions. That way you don't mess up there. Of course, you got your pressure control solenoid here. You just take your wrench there. I don't have one here with me, of course. Go grab one real quick.
And you said I'm ready.
I know. At least it's not my 10 millimeter.
I don't know.
And I'm going to guess at the wrench size. I think it might be a 3/4, 13, or 7/8. I'll pick those three. One of them's going to be right.
Yeah, one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. It's been a while since you did one.
It has been. you're going to take your wire cutters, grab that pin right there, and you're going to pull it out. Okay, you want to take that pin and put it in your favorite location that you never lose things. There you go, right there.
Wait a second, where's your cup then that you lost, what, a month ago? That's a lot bigger.
Okay, 13/16. I take my Phillips, get in here like this, bust it loose. Once you get it busted loose, take the nut off and you pull the shaft out. This shaft can go back in either direction. It doesn't have to be marked to go back on your rooster cone here. It can go on either direction. So, in other words, it doesn't matter. It can go on either direction. You got your pressure control solenoid. A lot of times you can adjust this screw, turn it about 1/8 of a turn. You don't want to get crazy, but you can bump it just a little bit if you're not putting a shift kit in it or something. If you're putting a shift kit in it, I would leave it alone for the first trial. And then if you want more pressure or something, you can come in here and pull your shifter linkage out and turn that screw 1/8 of a turn or something. So. Of course, you got your shifter seal. Nasty. These are all 10mm here. If you notice here, your pump's got threads in 2 holes. That way you can get in here and use a small slide hammer and pull it out. Now, in the AODs, they had a cast iron pump. This is an aluminum pump. Still gear drive. Come on out of there. Nope, ain't happening. There we go. Kind of curious to see what this looks like on the inside.
Yeah.
Like I said, it is I believe it's a Ford reman, so I was expecting to see somewhere a little bit of wear on your forward rings. You can see your reverse rings right here look brand new. Take our intermediate clutch piston retainer and spring assembly off. When you go to put this back on, see how this retainer has them little lips right there? It hooks in this groove. So anytime you put it back on, it's going to lock on there no matter what. But you always want to come in here, push it this way, and kind of tap them. That way, it's hooked on there really good. Okay? That's on assembly. And also, this intermediate piston has a orifice bleed hole in it. It's right here. Right down in here. Okay? You always want that hole at the top. If you notice, this is the bottom of the pump. You got your suction for your filter. The hole's at the top. If you put it down at the bottom, like this, it can aerate fluid, cause bubbles and stuff like that. but it's made to be up here. That way, it sprays oil on these clutches. It sprays oil on all this stuff up here. Sprays oil on your thrust washer. This lubricates all this stuff up here in front. That little orifice does. And of course, you want it to lubricate from the top down. You don't want it down here because then it's not going to lubricate nothing. Got 2 seals here. Little short lip seals. Little, almost nothing there. Just remember, the lip always lays over to the low side. So when you're putting that on there, the lip is always going to lay over to the low side. If you put it this way, the lip cannot lay over onto the tall side. Same way here. Low side, tall side. Your lip's going to fold over into the low side. That way you don't get your seals on wrong. What I like about this pump is Ford didn't have to change it 50 times like they did the E40D, stuff like that. They made multiple gear changes, diameters, thicknesses, and stuff to get the pump right. They were having to move a lot of fluid in that unit, and they didn't make them big enough to do everything at one time. You want to look here, of course. You got your pressure and your suction. You very seldom ever see any wear on this pump right here. Same way with the gears. You very seldom ever see any wear. You're going to see wear. It's usually going to be in here where the converter is touching and it's turning the gear. You want to look from here to here. This little spot from here to here is really critical. You're going to make sure there's nothing grooved from here to here. That groove right there is designed to really get that gear full of oil and pump a lot of oil. And just remember too, this gear can pretty much go in either direction. This gear here has a chamfer for the converter. So it has to go down. So, big old wide brass pump bushing. This bushing will be staked in a couple places. In here and in here it'll be staked from this side. You can see it. There, I'll try to turn it. Can you see that stake right there, Teresa, where it's been staked? You don't have to drill the hole or anything for the drain back. It's all plenty good. Of course, we have our overdrive band. It's not burned up. It's a little dark, but it's, you know, it's salvageable if you wanted to use it on something. We don't patch, so we won't be using it. Of course, you have your intermediate clutches here, still hanging in there. You know, you can see the wear. They're starting to get thin for sure. And then we have our reverse clutch down in here, and then we have our overdrive band that goes around the drum here. You very seldom see any dipping on this drum here. You definitely still want to check it with a straight edge in 3 or 4 places. Now we do have an issue with this snap ring right here coming off. Now when you take the pump out, this snap ring will be laying right here. It'll be just sitting right in here. They do make a better snap ring. You always want to check it. Replace it if it's got any type of stretch on it when you get it out. Same way here on this cover. You want to look at these tabs right here and make sure that they're not missing, or half of them missing, and this is sitting here doing this. You want to check that. Of course, you have your one-way roller clutch here. You notice how it's smooth here. It's got an area to carry a little bit of oil in here, because this runs against this, so they want to keep a little bit of oil on there. and you have your roller clutch here. Just remember, this can go in either direction. Just remember, your spring always pushes your roller uphill. 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 Always remember that. That way you don't get in trouble. Of course, you have your reverse clutches here. Depending on what motor size you have in the vehicle, whether you're going to have a 3 clutch, a 4 clutch. Now you can update it if it's just got a 3 clutch to a 4 clutch. You notice this plate says reverse plate top. Totally different. This is a ply plate, that's a backing plate, 4 clutch. Just remember, when you go changing these drums, you want to take a dial caliper and you want to check the depth from here to here, because that depth will be dependent on whether you have a bearing here or a thrust washer here. Okay, so you got to check that, and when you go start changing parts, you want to check the depth, because if you had a bearing or a thrust washer, that's the reason why. The thrust washer is a lot thinner, the drum's a lot taller. So check in here for any wear, place your bushings. Now this is a drum I wanted to talk a little bit about. This is your forward drum. Anytime you put this train into gear, you put it in drive or overdrive, this clutch comes on, okay? When it shifts to second gear, this clutch is on. When it shifts to third gear, this clutch is on. When it shifts to fourth gear, the forward clutch comes off, and then your overdrive band comes on around this drum, like that. Okay, so if this band come off to go to, in a passing gear, saying if you're going to trip passing gear from fourth to third, and this band come off to make that shift down, but this forward clutch didn't come back on, it'd be a neutral. There would be nobody home. This clutch is on in third gear, it's on in second gear, it's on in first gear. You have your third gear clutch farther down in here. I'll have to show you that. But this is the only tranny, the AOD, the AODE, the 470 versions, the forward clutch physically comes off in overdrive. So just think of the timing, how critical that is. You're fixing to do a passing gear downshift, you're going to pass somebody, and this overdrive band is going to kick out of there, boom, out of there, and this forward clutch has got to come on to have third gear, because you got to remember your third gear clutch is already on. It stays on in fourth gear. So when your forward clutch comes off, real critical clutch right here, especially clutch timing and stuff like that. They did go to a bigger clutch in the AODEs in the forward. The AOD had a lot smaller forward clutch in diameter, so they did upgrade the clutch size there. Pretty neat. Now you remember this tranny here has electronic lockup. The AOD had a direct drive lockup is what I call it. What they did is this shaft right here splines into the third gear drum down there. And on the AODs, the shaft was that long. Do I got one laying around? I don't, but the shaft's that long. And that shaft goes into the third gear drum, and it goes right back into the back of the converter in the backing plate right here and splines into a direct spline that is solid to the back of the converter. So anytime it went into third gear, it went into direct drive. There's no lockup clutch. It just locks straight to the back of the converter, locked to your motor. So when it goes into fourth gear, your direct clutch is still on, remember that, and your overdrive band comes on and it's still locked in lockup. But it's not lockup because there's no clutch, it's a direct drive is what I call it. But that's how they did it and switched it up. This splines here into the forward drum. So when it shifts into third gear, it just stays locked into the forward drum and goes all the way through the input shaft that way. So, pretty neat. You got your forward clutch hub here. You have a bearing with a tab. Just remember, anytime you have a bearing with a tab, the bushing has to set below surface. Because the hub here and the tab is what keeps the bearing center. So if you put the bearing flush, that right there would touch it and grind, make brass instantly. You know, they don't have to be stuck down like that far down. That one looks really nice. It's right on the bevel right there, but that one can be up a little bit farther. See your lube hole for the 2 bushings. You just want to check it. Drive your bushing in. I drive it into it's right below that spline right there. Of course, you have this bearing here. Same has the lip going up. Can't put it down because it'll set here. It's got to go up and then it goes up inside here. Bushing here, place it. Of course, look at your sun gear for any pitting, any wear. They did multiple changes on this gear right here on the diameter of it. You also want to look here for any wear. Now, if you do have an input speed sensor in the front of the tranny, this will not be steel. This will be like a magnesium of some type of weird metal. If you notice here, on this one, a magnet sticks to it. Well, if you have the later version that has a speed sensor in the front, a magnet will not stick to it. Because what they're doing is, the input speed sensor is counting this. These lugs right here. And it's sitting in here like this. So the sensor has to read through it. See, so it's a lot different. Definitely a lot different. You don't want to put a steel one in that has an input speed sensor because it's not going to read through that. Now we do have a snap ring here that has 2 little fingers on it looking things right here. See them, Teresa?
Yeah.
Right here. Always want to put them in your opening. If you notice here, our anti-clunk spring is stuck down in here. See that right there?
Mm-hmm. Is that going to pop out and hit me?
No. See it right there? Yep. Snap ring has to set over it to hold it in there. They do make 2 versions. The later version looks just like a little rock, just a flat piece of metal that looks like a rocking chair leg.
Horseshoe?
Oh, it's not a horseshoe totally. It's like the bottom of a rocking chair.
Yeah. It's
bent like that, and it sets down in there on the later versions.
Yeah.
Okay. Get this like this, give you an idea what we got. Of course, we have our support here. A lot of times where your anti-clunk spring sets, you'll get wear right here. You can see it starting to appear. And all you got to do is come in here and TIG that up a little bit and clean that up, and you can still use that piece. Put a new bushing in it. We're going to Scotch-Brite right here, roll up really nice, because you have a roller clutch right here, a one-way bearing that spins one way and not the other. Spins that way, will not turn. Spins that way, will not turn back. But you want to Scotch-Brite that up, get the shiny off of it. And just remember, the spring always pushes the roller uphill when you assemble this stuff, because it is so easy to put these in backwards. And when you put them in backwards, this will spin both directions. It doesn't lock either way. And that's where you run into trouble. Okay. Of course, you have your reverse band. Starting to get pretty thin on the tips. Of course, you have your big old rear planetary assembly. Look at that thing, massive. You got a bushing here, you got a bearing down here. You really want to look at that bearing down in here because it has 2 races put together, and then they put a ring on the outer edge of it to hold it together. Okay? Well, that little ring breaks, and next thing you know, the ring is like this, and the 2 bearings start moving separately from each other, the 2 races. So you always want to look down in there. that piece will come out. You can see that little piece right there. You can barely see it. It'll come out, next thing you know, the gears are running it over. If you don't have no room for anything in there, the time you get, you know, your sun gear in there, and you get your where'd I lose it at?
You didn't put it in
Yeah, I
that
put it over
place
here.
that you never
Yeah, your
lose
shell.
things.
Time you get all the gears down in there, there's just no room for nothing inside this drum in here, or inside this planetary, excuse me. And then, of course, when you go to start changing parts, I have a really good book that talks about the height of this right here. Right here. You got to watch that height right there. You have to look at this hub right here and look at your part number and make sure you have the right matching ones. So you want to look at all that stuff. Anytime you're changing parts, that's what you run into. The small things that'll get you. So you want to remember that. Same way here. You go messing around with this drum right here. If you have to replace it, this is a common drum you have to replace. You get bushing wear here. You get bushing wear on this. It sets right there. That planet bushing runs here. So if it's all good, you want to Scotch-Brite it up, of course, put new bushings and everything. But see that hole? They changed this stuff up right through here. So you got to be careful when you go grab another one of these drums and you start swapping parts out, because they swapped it around right to this area right here, and it's real critical. Of course, on this drum here, they did the same thing. They raised the snap ring groove up and down to add more clutches or less clutches. So you're going to, if you add more, you're going to have to find a drum with a higher snap ring groove, or find you a clutch pack that's thinner steels, thinner clutches. This is your third gear clutch here. You got this piece right here that keeps the snap ring down in there, keeps everything centered. Only goes one way, it's flat, like that. Then of course you have this bearing with the lip up again that sets in there. If you put it this way, that lip's going to set on that race right there. That's not how it goes. So, pretty neat. Anyway, that sets like that. After I put my bushings in, I always check them and make sure they fit. Every one of them. You don't want to start putting it together, and next thing you know, you get your tranny won't turn because your bushings are way too tight. Of course, you have a really fine snap ring that sets down in here. Your band sets on it. It can go either way like that. I try to keep it out of the bigger barrel area here, and then your band sets on it like that. And of course, you have your snap rings right here. Not snap rings, excuse me, your sealing rings. 3 of them right here. If you have a governor style, you're going to have 4 of them right there. Big bearing, same way. It's got only go one way. Sets down over the case like that. You have a bushing down in here. Really don't ever see any issues through here. Everything always seems to be really nice when you take them apart. You do have 2 sealing rings right here for your third gear clutch. Just got to clean everything up really nice. Like I said, nothing goes in our parts washer except the case, the pan, and the tail housing. Everything else is hand cleaned. Okay, that bushing down in that case. Ask me how you get that bushing out. Hopefully I can find my tool, and I just found it.
Okay, Richard, how do you get that bushing out?
See that bushing down in there? How do you get that bushing out of there? Impossible to get out. I don't know if they make a tool for it. I've never seen one. But sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. This is an old extension that I made. You can see here, I grinded it down, put a little lip on it right there. Let me get a rag where it looks a little better. You can see it. I've had this tool 40 years. Just no extension. See how I made it. But when it sets down, when it sets down in here to grab that bushing, I can get behind it. See that? Because I cut it out the way it is. It's got a flat bottom right here that gets right on top of that bushing, so where I can take and push it right down. Let me take it out real quick. See how simple that was?
That was just old school. We have something now, but hey, it works. There you go.
But anytime you do that, you want to get in here, because it's not going to be you that made a mess. It's going to be Ford. If you take your finger and you run around in here, this whole bore is jacked up. Okay? Can you see all the scarring from them putting that bushing in down here, Teresa? Can you get down in there and look at the scarring?
So
see?
move your, yeah.
Can you see that, guys? Can you see it now?
I can see it without the...
Can you zoom in there?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The flashlight is...
There's just so much scarring down in this case bore right here where that bushing goes. You have to clean that out. Every bit of it's got to come out. If you go and press a new bushing in there with all that buildup in there, you will never get this piece back in there. It will not fit. I've done it. I've tried it. I've been there not 100 times, because I learned the first time. So what I got is instead of an angle cutter, I got one that's straight, and I got these buffing wheels. I can get in there and I can clean all that out of there right there. I mean, if you can stick your finger in and feel it, it almost cuts you, because there's just so much of it. A lot of them ain't that bad, but that's really bad. So I don't even know how they got that in there and then put that piece back in, because if I just leave a little bit in there, it just won't work. So, but anyway, just remember on these, the forward clutch comes off in 4th gear. It's the only train that I know of that does it. And we have our Transgo kit over here. We got our Transtar stuff, our bands and stuff. But what I like about Transtar is in their kits, they give you a lot of bulletin stuff. Tells you what clutch and stuff comes on. If you look here, your forward's on and everything. If you look here in 4th gear, it's off, and 4th in reverse. But you can go through here. It talks about a lot of things. Talks about your bleed orifice hole I was telling you about. Check ball locations from AOD to 470, stuff like that. How to identify. They make 2 different overdrive servos. Remember, mine was a single. Mine didn't have the collar. So just different things. That's what makes Transtar stand out from everybody else too, on putting those instructions and stuff in there like that. So, well, Tricia, we want to thank you for recording. Definitely want to thank Annie. Go check out our merch store. Don't want to forget to say that. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, push the notification bell, and hopefully I explained enough on this old Ford right here, so maybe you can build one someday and get you back on the road. So, hey, y'all have a great day. See you next time.